with every single episode. I will keep talking about this until you're sick of me saying it again to you. It starts with you. This is why this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids. There's nothing wrong with your kids. The challenge is, like the problem where you keep getting stuck over and over in so many different ways, is that you... Welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. The episode today is for moms and dads of children who struggle with anxiety, especially when it comes to not wanting to go back to school after holidays. So if you're struggling with finding the right way and the right support for your children and finding the right balance between pushing them there like directly and too harshly, and then also acknowledging their feelings and helping them create some more resilience and resistance and self-confidence, then the episode today is for you. Let's talk. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when the new episodes are out. Hi, this is Alena, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom program, where we help busy, loving, but yelling moms, and now even dads, stop yelling at your kids. Learn how to set healthy boundaries with them so that you grow healthy, kind, resilient, stress-resistant human beings who have beautiful memories of their perfectly imperfect parents and childhood. Today, we have a very specific topic that ties back to that resilience and stress resistance, because I'm recording this podcast episode at a time where in Europe we have had we are finishing a series of holidays. Again, school holidays. It feels like the kids have holidays all the time. And it's funny because on two occasions, this topic of anxious kids and school and resilience, it came to my attention. So the last one was yesterday. I had a check-in with one of our Zen Supermom clients, and she logged into our Zoom session apologizing that her 4-year-old is at home with her exceptionally, because she said, well, it's Monday. We just finished 2 weeks of holidays here in the UK, and he didn't want to go back to school. And I kind of felt like, I don't want to push it, so I let him stay. And so it didn't work to get him to school in the morning, so I told him, let's try again at noon. That didn't work. He didn't feel any more ready to go to school back then. So I told him, I'm going to have this call with you, and then we try again 1 hour later. We will try to go to school. And so I said, well, okay, we have our topic for today cut out. We need to talk because what's going on here? Yeah. So this is episode for any of you who are sitting there having exactly this like parenting fight with yourself, knowing school is important, knowing your kids need to go there, and you want to grow this habit in them. You want them to feel confident and happy going to school. But no matter how much you try, to convince them and encourage them, sometimes even bribe them. You know that punishment doesn't work. Like, hey, you need to, this is the punishment, go to school. You're trying to do it in a positive way because you know that's the best way. But it's not working. And you're feeling their pain. You're feeling their anxiety. You can it's a connection between you and your child, and you're like, I can't do that to them. I can't inflict that pain and push them to go to school even against their will, against their own wish. And that's why you let them stay at home. If that's you, I'm sending you a big hug. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm not going to point any fingers. I'm not going to blame you for being a bad parent. But let's talk about it. Because I don't have to tell you, what is the consequence? What is the consequence of you continuing to do that? And we are talking here about kids being confident and feeling happy going to school. But what is the consequence of you tuning into their own anxiety and low self-confidence and reaffirming it? Because that's what you're doing. You're saying, yeah, I get it. School is scary. I completely understand. It's much more fun and much safer and much more comfortable to stay at home with me, not face your fear, not go through that discomfort and feeling sad and lonely. Don't go there. Stay with me. It's better. You're not ready. I get it. You're affirming. You're affirming validating their emotions, which is what those smart parenting techniques and childhood psychology books teach you. Yeah, you need to affirm and make their feelings heard and understood, and validate that they have the right to feel sad and anxious and shy. But then look at the result. And this is why I tell everybody, I'm not a parenting expert, I'm not a psychologist, and that's a good news for you, because you don't need those. You've already read enough. This is where, I love it. I'm not on a witch hunt for psychologists and parenting experts. Please hear me out. But this is where they just open up space for misinterpretation. This is where it trips you up. If you identified yourself at the beginning of this episode, like, oh my goodness, this is for me, then hear me out. This is where you misinterpreted that advice. Yes, your kid needs you to acknowledge that what they are feeling is real. They need to feel the space to be able to express in a safe way all of their emotions, not just to be the happy, good kid and just like man up and don't cry because boys don't cry. Don't be a wussy, like this is just cool. Nobody's going to bite you, and just suck it up and go. No. You need to validate their feelings. Yes, that's correct. However, what those smart books and advice don't tell you, you cannot trauma bond with them the moment you feel the pain of your child, because it's exactly the same pain you went through when you were a kid, and you still feel it as if it was today when you were forced to go to school and you hated it so much and you felt so anxious and frightened and not comfortable, as if it was a rejection that your parents kicked you out of your cozy safe home and you had to go out there to this cruel world where you felt lonely, misunderstood, not heard. If that's what your kid's triggering you on Monday morning when it's time to go back to school, then we need to talk. You need to do more than just validate your kid's feeling. You need to clean up yours. You need to clean up your childhood trauma first. Because unless you do, you're not going to be able to help your kids. They will grow up being reaffirmed in their own anxiety and low self-confidence. And that's how the generational loop, the chain, will just keep continuing into their own adulthood. How does your childhood anxiety trauma still impact you in your life today? What price do you pay for it? What price do you pay for your parents not being able to support you effectively in your own anxiety and low self-confidence and shyness growing up? And please, again, hear me out. I'm not here on the witch hunt for our parents. I'm not here to blame them for everything that's wrong in our lives now. No, they did the best they could, just like you are doing the best now you can for your kids. And there is nothing wrong with being shy, with being introvert. Your kids have all the right to do that. And also, it shouldn't stop them from enjoying school and going there and understanding why school is important. and feeling resilient and strong enough to go there. They don't have to be friends with everybody. They don't have to be the light of the party. My brother used to call it that he was the lion of the, like that was him. He was the extrovert. I was the introvert. I was the fly on the wall, just observing everybody for like 1 hour before I understood what are the interactions, which kids are safe and which kids are fun, and I want to join them, and which kids I'm going to avoid. I was the shy introvert. I'm not here to tell you like, it's wrong that your kids are shy and introverted. No, that's okay. It's okay to be an introvert. But let's help them grow up into being resilient, self-confident introverts. Wouldn't you want that if somebody helped you how to do that? Growing up? That's why with every single episode, I will keep talking about this until you're sick of me saying it again to you. It starts with you. This is why this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids. There's nothing wrong with your kids. The challenge is, like the problem where you keep getting stuck over and over in so many different ways, is that you haven't healed yourself, and the situations with your kids are bringing it up now. That's why it's not your kid who needs a psychologist. It's you who need to work with a childhood trauma specialist, so that once you stop trauma bonding with your kids, once you stop being triggered by their pain because it makes you feel your pain so intensely, so you want to help them avoid feeling their pain by keeping them safe in your arms at home. But in the long term, that's not going to help anything. This is why you need to start working with yourself first. And this is what I told that mom. This is what I told our client. When she told me that, and in the next hour we go and like try to go to school again, I was like, no, please stop. Look at what you're doing to your child. Not only you didn't let him go to school, you allowed him to stay at home, but what are you doing with those like hourly reminders and pushes? How do you think that makes him feel now? Doesn't it make his anxiety even worse? Like, and in 1 hour now, I will go through the same thing, and I will need to start feeling sick, and I will need to make even bigger tantrum and show my mom even more pain and anxiety so that she keeps me at home for 1 hour longer. And then again, the next hour, I'll have to do the same drama again because I'm not safe. Like, I'm home for now, but she will try to kick me out again. It's like, what are you doing? So my invitation, not advice, I never give advice. You are the best parenting expert for your kids. I always just give invitations if they want to consider it, if they choose it appropriate. I gave her the invitation to consider, like, stop doing the hourly ultimatum, like the hourly decision time. It doesn't go anywhere. It just makes his anxiety worse, her son. And instead, do your work. Do your work exactly as we are doing in the program. Keep self-healing. Talk to your inner child who feels this anxiety. Start journaling some of your experiences, how you felt about going to school. Because that's what needs to be addressed. It's your inner child who's actually managing this situation today. It's not you, the adult. It's you, the 5-6-year-old girl who felt the pain. Like, that's the human being who's making decisions right now. Your 5-year-old. So take your power back from your 5-year-old, become the adult again, because as an adult, you can see the long-term consequences of it. And then start helping your son. Start helping him, start coaching him, and asking questions. Well, wouldn't it be fun if? Trying to find a safe way for him to see an opportunity, not just an obligation, but supporting him in feeling safe going to school and feeling safe coming back, not as it's a punishment, you need to go because I need to work, like blaming your work for his obligation to go to school, but helping him find his strength and what are the good qualities he has and what are the things he has already loved about school in the past. What are the things that can go right at school today? What is it that is within his control no matter what? No matter what the teacher says, no matter what the other kids do, what is it that he knows to be true about himself that will help him through no matter what happens? That's the coaching that you can do as a parent. Only once you disconnect from your own trauma, which keeps you stuck in feeling like, yeah, I feel so sorry for him that he has to go to school because it's so terrible. It's so anxiety inducing. Okay. Because unless you do that, unfortunately, I had a second example of the exact situation. That's why I decided to make a podcast episode about it. Because just yesterday I spoke to a mom who was right in it with a 5-year-old. And we just came back from our holidays. We were visiting my family in Czech Republic. And we visited some of our relatives. And I could see there how it plays out if you don't do this work. That was a family with a 9-year-old boy. And I'm not here to criticize anybody, point the fingers. I know we are all doing our best. We hope our kids will just get through it the best they can, perfectly imperfect. So I'm not judging the mom here, but I want to tell you the story because this is the consequence of what happens if you don't clean up your trauma as early as possible as your kids are growing up. Because here was exactly the same situation. It just took longer, so the impact was much broader. So this poor mom, it started with her not wanting to put her son even in a kindergarten. So in the Czech Republic, there's obligation. I think the age restriction, age obligation is 5 years old. So you don't have to put your kids earlier to school if you don't wish to. And because she didn't want to do any vaccinations because of their belief system, so the son was allowed only into a forest school, which is like a special kind of alternative education, And even there, she could not manage that separation anxiety. So there was already trauma bonding there because she could not... Like if you're a mom of a kid who is already at school, you know how difficult those first days and weeks are when you need to give them up and you need to give them to somebody else or to like institution. It's hard. I've been there. I went through it. It's hard. But what made it worse for the kid, for the baby at the time, was the mom's reaction, And what that triggers in us. And so she, even at 5 years old, she had problems leaving him there because she could see him cry all the way to her car. So she even spent like 1 hour sitting in the car, hearing him scream. And then she came back and took him back home. And this is the challenge. Because what is that teaching your child? That's teaching your child, if only I cry enough, if only I get myself feeling bad enough, my mom will hear it and she will understand I'm in so much pain that she will help me remove that pain by taking me out of there. What is the long-term consequence of that? Long-term consequences are complex and far-reaching for the rest of the life of that child. I can already see it playing out, how it played out in the following 4 years, because now he's 9. I've been following this, like we are keeping in touch with that family, and I'm just, oh my goodness, if you were not my family, like I would want to work with you because this is exactly what we are doing. And I can't, I don't work with family or friends because it's always like, it's a tricky ground. You need to keep healthy boundaries between all of this. But it was breaking my heart, and luckily my husband doesn't understand Czech too well, so he didn't understand the conversation I was having with the mom. But when I told him later on that evening, he was like, he felt so down, he felt so triggered by that story, because how it played out from then on. So the kindergarten, she could keep taking him out of there, so the boy never learned to feel okay without his mom. Then he started like the primary school. There she couldn't take him out. So he subconsciously, unknowingly, he developed a lot of, they call it psychosomatic symptoms. He was getting sick all the time. 1 month, 2 months at a time, he was getting sick. And most of it was not just like the usual, kids have running nose and cough because they share the bacteria at school, He was getting digestive problems. And those are the problems that kids, like, this has been already proven in research. It is connected with the nervous system, and the pediatrician were even telling her, the doctors were telling her, there's nothing wrong with his digestive system. It is the stress, it is his anxiety causing it. But it worked. So he was having all these symptoms. So if your kids have diarrhea or is vomiting, they will not take him to school. They will tell you, keep him at home. Because they will be worried it's like, yeah, he might be contagious and might infect other kids. So it worked. The strategy worked for the boy. But what is the result 3 years later? He missed out so much on school, being at home, like all the time. What is the result? Can you imagine? So not only he never came to peace with being at school, with enjoying being with other kids, or at least being able to go through the day without feeling stressed or anxious. Like, you don't need to love school. I'm not saying that all the kids should be like, hey, I'm going to school. Huh? But at least not suffer being at school. That's what should be, that's my belief. That's what should be normal, that they understand that's what it is. And I go to school. I don't love it, but I'm at peace with it. That's what I need to do. He never got to that point. For him, going to school has always been suffering. So he's been getting sick. He's been getting treated with those digestive issues. So she even took him to a naturopath and like whatever alternative ways, because the classical medicine didn't help. Because there's nothing wrong with his physical state. The classical doctors, they didn't find anything. So she went to alternative ways. So they started putting him on a diet. 9-year-old, can you imagine? On a diet, very restrictive diet, trying to find out what is the problem. Didn't find anything. Surprise. So as a result of all of that, he's extremely weak. Like, his immunity system, because of all these diets and those like digestive problems, his immunity is super weak. So whenever there is a virus, he catches it. His bones, he broke his leg. He stayed at home for 2 months because of broken leg. And they gave him a computer so that he doesn't feel alone and he doesn't feel bored. So now he became addicted to gaming. And he has troubles finding friends at school because he's not at school. So they created their own friend groups. It's very difficult for him to fit in now. He has no physical, like not good physical condition. So he's suffering in like the how do they call it? Like the physical classes, the exercises classes, because his physical condition is like non-existent, like very low. He's considered to be the outlier, the outsider, by the teachers, by the kids, because he's just showing up randomly and not enjoying it. They can see it. And he is extremely anxious and stressed out. At 9 years old. Yeah. And all of this could have been prevented. And the mom starts understanding it only now. She was telling me, and that's why I was not judging her. I just felt so much compassion for her, and I felt so sorry for her, because only now she was telling me, like, now I start seeing it. It's me. It has been me all along. If I could just take back the time, I would have done it differently. I would have worked on myself first so that I can help him. Because there are so many decisions I made that I regret now. So at least this is what I was trying to do for her, was trying to tell her, it's not too late. He's 9. Yes, a lot of it was done. You can't change the past. The only thing you can do now is not throw your hands in the air and go and do something about it now. So then you do go get the help. You start working on your own childhood and stuff so that you stop projecting it and trauma bonding with your son who feels the same way now, and you can't help him. How do you want to help your child overcome their anxiety if you haven't overcome yours? You have no tools. You have no idea how it feels not to feel anxious. So how do you want to tell your kids? They feel it's not real. They feel it. If you're telling them, like, just be brave, be courageous. If you're not, they know there's disconnect. That it does not work. You can't help your kids build healthy self-confidence, resilience, So that no matter what bully comes their way, no matter what hardship they will have to go through life, you will not always be there to protect them from like bad things happening to them. The only thing you can do for them is you become that person you want them to grow up into one day. Making their own choices, making their own mistakes, being unique self, being an introvert, being shy. There's nothing wrong with that. But knowing it's not stemming from their feeling of low self-worth, of them not feeling safe on their own. That they can't help themselves. That they do need somebody to be codependent on because they are not okay on their own. They are not okay by themselves. They need somebody else to make them feel you're okay, you're safe, you're good enough, I love you. They will always be looking for somebody to grab and get that from them, unless you teach him how to get it from within. And you can't teach them unless you understand that you are worthy right now, no matter what. That you can love yourself unconditionally. That you are good enough. Even as a shy or introverted person. You're perfect the way you are. Unless you start really feeling that way in your body, about yourself, about your life, you can't teach that to your kids. Because they watch you every single second. They watch you from the moment you get up in the morning, how you look at yourself in the mirror, how you look at, like when you get dressed and how you look at your body. What you put on your plate and how you eat, how you talk about yourself, how you talk about life, how you talk about hard stuff. Their antennas are on, they're picking up everything. So often we think like, oh, it's just a baby, they don't understand. Kids are wired to read your energy. And as a mom, I'm sorry, dads, but as a mom, like you have the most power. It's not 50-50 mom and dad having equal impact and influence on the kids. I'm sorry, dads. Yeah. Mom, you are the most powerful person in the house, no matter what. And kids are learning from you every second, especially when you think they're not watching or they're too stupid, too young, too naive to understand. That's exactly the age when they're the most vulnerable. Because a little bit of, hey, childhood psychology, a little lesson here, little theory. Till the age of 6, their brain functions, the function of critical thinking is not developed enough. So until the age of 6, they are meant to be absorbing sponges that just take everything, especially from you. Everything you give them, everything you tell them, all of your energy, they just soak it in and they are creating blueprint. That's how life is. That's who mom is. That's who I am based on that. That's how this thing works. Until the age of 6, they just take it with no filters, no critical thinking. They can't. They just absorb it and it becomes them. They become you, literally. Only from 6 years onwards, the critical function of the brain is starting to develop and they're starting questioning, like, why? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, why would I? And this makes no sense. And mom, you told me this yesterday and now this is today. Like, no. They start standing up for themselves. They start being like more sometimes rebellious and they're like, no, like, why? This makes no sense. Like, then there's the critical function. And yet still, you are most of the time their hero and they just absorb everything from you, especially whatever you tell them about themselves, especially the negative parts that make them feel not good enough. Or if you are not feeling well, they will make it their fault. If your relationship with your partner is not going well, they will make it their fault. They will blame themselves for it. Whatever you are anxious about, they will just take it on like, yeah, that thing is scary, watch out. Does that make sense? So, you have some work to do, huh? The good news is it is doable. This is not like your genetic destiny. This is not your trauma curse for you and your family for the rest of your life. You can get help pretty fast. The first step is realizing what's going on. It's realizing that the best way to protect your kids and make sure they are safe is growing them into being strong, resilient, confident human beings. Uniquely, perfectly imperfect the way they are. Because that's what you want, right? You don't want to change them. You don't want to force them into anything. You just want to support them the best way. Well, this is the best way I know. Take it or leave it. Take whatever was useful for you from this podcast episode and let me know. Keep me posted. If this helped just one mom get one aha moment, light bulb moment, then it was worth it. I'm wishing you a happy return to school. If that's what you're facing right now, do your homework and reach out if you need any help with it. Take care, Supermom. Want to know why those gentle parenting techniques are not working for you? Where is that uncontrollable anger that you feel with your kids? Where is it coming from? Then download this mini book. I prepared it for you, busy, loving, but yelling supermom or superdad. Because no, it's not about learning more parenting techniques. It's not about doing classic talk therapy. It's not about more self-care time so that you can de-stress. No, there's something deeper going on. It's not even about your kids. So I compiled this mini book out of my most successful 1 hour long live training that I'm doing. I compressed it in just a few pages so that you can learn these 2 keys that you need to be able to stay calm with your kids, no matter how stressed you are, no matter how much they are pushing your boundaries, so that you know what it's going to take for you to stay calm and set healthy boundaries without yelling. Want to know how? Get that mini book now.